Welcome to the new best assassin build for 2022, guys, with over 30 million damage with RS Madness and even over 4 million damage every time you hit your enemies with your glowing lightsaber stick. This is one of the best builds I've ever made, and I even managed to squeeze up to 1.8 million assassin damage out of this game. To achieve this crazy number, you have to use a lot of building tricks we have found in the past. First of all, using the 200% damage from the core for engraving, using the hunter damage conversion to get another 100% out of it, using the Yumminess, and playing on Corfu Island where you get 200% free assassin damage. All this will add another 750% damage to an already overpowered build. But using the Yumminess is really not a good idea and not recommended because you can't use RS Madness anymore. So I quickly switched to a regular weapon and was able to play on the Greek world and get even over 80 million damage with RS Madness when I killed the Polemarch. This is a much better build since you can now use your abilities, your hero strike and RS Madness as often as you want to, and you will still be able to deal 23 million with the RS Madness activation on a random target. Having over 1 million damage in my inventory was around the sweet spot, giving me 100% crit chance, 825% critical damage. I even managed to squeeze in the 2 kills RS Madness reset, and you can play with any weapon you want to. So focusing on assassin damage alone will not give you the highest damage numbers. You have to focus on your crit damage, on your abilities as well. And I also want to give you a quick update about what is Ubisoft going to do to fix the Ixion's Agony, the Tartarus weapons which you can't get from Zargon store, because instead of fixing it, they simply released a summer sale claiming to be 60% off on all items, which is simply false advertisement. It is only 35% on the packs and 40% on the Tartarus weapons itself. I don't know, but this is kind of punishable by law in almost every country I know, so I hope Ubisoft is not getting into trouble with this. So instead of fixing the error at Zargon's shops, they simply throw a sale at you, forcing you to buy the same item with just a little lesser amount of money to keep you happy, forcing you to buy stuff still with real money, which should be free. It doesn't matter how much it costs, it should be free this week. So before you buy anything from the Helix store, please be aware that you don't need any of these items to make the best and most powerful builds in this game. This channel offers all the best free-to-play builds, and if you join our Discord server, we will pick and select the right build for you and help you making it. This is also a good opportunity to actually become a Patreon or YouTube member or donate to this channel and help us creating these great content and build for you, instead of supporting a company that already made millions from your microtransactions and clearly only wants to rip off your money. And of course, in this build I will also include a complete free variant for you. This build will deal up to 1 million damage with a light attack, and you will get up to 1.4 million damage with a heavy attack. Keep in mind that you have to attack your enemies from behind and with fire when you want to get the same numbers. The charged heavy attack will be 4.6 million damage, hero strike will be over 12 million damage, an overpower attack in an animation cancel will be over 15 million damage, and Furious the Bloodline will also be between 7 and 8 million damage. Our arrow shots are also insanely crazy, with the devastating shot being almost 4 million damage and the predator shot being almost 5 million damage, even though the multi-shot lacks a bit of punch here with only being 2 million damage, so you may sometimes need to clear up everything with RS Madness after using it. Speaking about RS Madness, you will get between 22 and 23 million for the activation and over 70 or 80 million damage when you hit the Polemarch from behind. Of course, you can assassinate and overrun mercenaries with a single assassination and kill every living thing in Greece with your crazy assassination damage. This is the build with the most assassin damage I have ever made, and it really plays like a very wonderful hybrid build at the same time. In the inventory, this build has 100,000 warrior damage and 1 million assassin damage. As I already said, 1 million assassin damage was the sweet spot, making you able to use your abilities playing in the Greek world, and just gives you much higher crit chance and crit damage. If you want to know how to get to 1.8 million assassin damage just for fun or to messing around, I will also show you that later in the video. And since this is a pure assassin focused build, we will also not use the beacon bow. Instead, we will use a bow that will further amplify our assassin damage. But of course, if you have the beacon bow and you put it in this build, you will immediately transform it into a really crazy hybrid build with 160,000 warrior damage and 160,000 hunter damage. On the left melee weapon slot, you can actually use whatever weapon type you prefer. I prefer swords, so I used a sword with assassin damage, damages swords and critical damage. If you want to play with daggers, you can go for daggers that have assassin damage, damage with daggers and critical damage. And if you want to play with blunts, of course go for assassin damage, damage with heavy blunts and critical damage. So you always have to go for a weapon that has assassin damage, damage with your preferred weapon type and critical damage, and then you should definitely engrave armor penetration on it. On the other melee weapon slot, we use the unique Minotaur Mace. The Minotaur Mace has assassin damage and 100% critical damage while full health. That is the only melee weapon in the game that has 100% critical damage while full health, so it literally works as if this weapon had 2 times the 50% crit damage. This is one of the most powerful weapons for assassin builds, and you should definitely engrave it with the convert 50% hunter damage to all damage, because when you use that in combination with the Corfu engraving with the champion Ostraka, then you will convert another 100% of your hunter damage to be assassin damage, so you literally get 100% assassin damage for free from that damage conversion. The Minotaur Mace can be acquired from the fake Minotaur questline in Pevka when you do the quest What Lies Below the Surface. For our bow, we will use the unique bandit bow with assassin damage, 10% crit chance and 50% critical damage. This bow is the best bow for pure assassin build. However, in any other type of build or in a hybrid build, you should definitely go for the bighorn bow, and you can also use the bighorn bow in this build if you don't have the bandit bow. But the bandit bow is only one of 4 bows in the game which have 50% critical damage. You can normally not engrave critical damage on bows, and that makes it so special. However, it can only be acquired from Olympian gifts, so if you don't have it and you also don't have the bighorn bow, you can also go for a bow that has assassin damage, 10% crit chance and 10% all damage instead. This is the best option if you still want to get the most assassin damage and you don't own the bandit bow and you also don't own the bighorn bow. On the headgear we have 20% assassin damage, 50% critical damage, 20% crit chance and then another assassin damage to maximize our assassin damage. However, if you want to have a little more protection in your build, you could also engrave ESO Enhance instead of the assassin damage, or you go for another damage with swords or damage with daggers if you want to amplify your warrior damage. But the assassin damage is definitely the preferred engraving to maximize your assassin damage. On the bracers we have assassin damage, 100% crit damage while full health, 50% crit damage, and then we will engrave the minus 15% cooldown duration for Battle Cry, which is from the free Northern Traveler set, and that still works as a 50% reduction. So when you make 2 kills you will immediately reset your Ares Madness ability, so that makes it an absolute needed engraving for every good assassin build. On the belt you actually have multiple options. If you own the Belt of the Sphinx, then you are actually lucky, because the Belt of the Sphinx is a unique item that has 20% crit chance on a belt, which is normally not possible on any other item. So this will make up the loss of crit chance on the bracers. Of course you should engrave this item with 100% crit damage. However, if you don't have the Belt of the Sphinx, you could go for an assassin belt with assassin damage, 10% crit chance and 100% crit damage, and then simply use a Nemean Lion set engraving. And if you also don't have the Nemean Lion set, then you can still use the Copycat Sword to get all the crit chance you need. I will show you exactly how to do this in the free variant of this build. On the torso we will go for assassin damage, 10% all damage and 50% crit damage, and here is a good spot to actually engrave the Corfu engraving with the 100% all damage but minus 100% all resistances. This gives you not only 200% instead of the stated 100%, but with the damage conversion from the hunter damage you will literally get 300% assassin damage just from this engraving. And if you already use the Falx engraving with the reduced health cap, then there is no real additional negative effect, because the game never kills you in a single hit anyway, so if you use one of them you should always use the other as well. On the boots we have assassin damage, 20% crit chance, 100% crit damage while full health and then another assassin damage. You could of course also engrave plus 3 seconds for Ares Madness duration if you want to. In this build variant, which I consider the best one, we will get 512% warrior damage, almost 720% assassin damage and 395% hunter damage. We have 60% damage with swords or whatever weapon you prefer to play with, we have 100% crit chance and 825% critical damage. We also have 60% fire damage, we have still the negative resistances, but that shouldn't bother you anyway because you are a stealthy assassin player. In the free variant, you should actually replace your left melee weapon with the copycat sword to get the 10% crit chance and engrave it with armor penetration. Then you place the damage with swords or damage with daggers instead of your weapon on the helmet. You should use the same bracers with the Northern Traveler's engraving and then put 20% assassin damage on your belt. This build has only 50% critical damage less and it kind of limits you to swords, which is not necessarily a bad thing. To get the crazy 1.8 million assassin damage, you have to use the Blade of Yumminess with 20% assassin damage, the Greek Hello with the damage conversion, the Bandit Bow with the Falx engraving. On our helmet we will use 20% assassin damage as well as on our bracers and on our belt. On the torso we have the 100% all damage but minus 100% resistances, and on the boots we again have the assassin damage. This build has 10% crit chance less, 100% crit damage less, and it doesn't even allow you to use your abilities. Therefore it is not really good build. Even if you would like to play with the Blade of Yumminess, don't go for just all in assassin damage, rather make yourself a better hybrid build. No matter which version of the build you are going to make, you should definitely go for the following abilities. Go for Sixth Sense because that also slows down time and makes it easier to assassinate your enemies. Put 2 points on Arrow Master. Go for Multi-Shot to eliminate up to 8 targets at once. Go for the Devastating Shot for 400% damage or the Predator Shot for 600% damage. Don't forget Archery Master, it refills your first adrenaline segment, and since we don't use the Bighorn Bow, we can also use 3 points on Overpower Bow Strike to get a really powerful shot. Of course, if you pick a variant where you actually use the Bighorn Bow, make sure you use only 1 point because anything else would be a waste. And also don't forget to get the Ghost Arrows, it is really powerful to shoot through walls and shields at the same time. In the warrior tree, go for the charged heavy attack, which is really powerful, especially if you want to play with swords, spears or blunts. Then go for the usual passive abilities, Weapons Master to get 40% warrior damage, 10% crit chance, Gear Master to increase your armor. Then you can go for 3 points on flaming attacks. Of course you could also engrave the flaming attacks ability on your sword or on your weapon instead, but armor penetration will definitely give you more damage. Don't forget to get the 3 points on Fire Mastery for the 40% free fire damage. Definitely go for the overpower attacks. And then for any assassin build, the most important ability is Ares Madness. You have to get this from the Atlantis DLC, but it is simply put the best ability in the entire game and will literally obliterate anything by using assassin damage on your melee hits. If you also have the Legacy DLC, you can also get Fury of the Bloodline, but it is not really needed. Rather go for Ring of Chaos for the crowd control, Second Wind to refill your health, and in the Assassin tree you should go for Shadow Assassin, which gives you 40% assassin damage and 50% critical damage alongside with 1 additional adrenaline bar for any assassination kill. That means that you will get between 2 and 3 adrenaline bars even if you don't own the Ixion's Agony and the engraving for it. Of course, go for Rush Assassination, that is kind of mandatory, but you don't have to get Critical Assassination, because you will assassinate everyone with a normal assassination anyway. Definitely go for Hero Strike. If you have so much assassin damage, you will deal up to 12 million damage with an animation cancel with Hero Strike, which is the highest I ever got. And also don't forget Stealth Master, because it makes all your movements a lot quieter and makes it a lot easier to attack your targets. And of course you will also get a 10% damage increase for all your attacks at night. For the mastery points we will do it the other way around, and we will start with the assassin tree, because I realized a lot of people start out with the hunter tree and fill it from top to bottom, which is actually stupid because the best masteries are actually in the assassin tree. So today we will start from the bottom with the assassin tree and with the ones you should actually get first. Since this is an assassin build, you should definitely go for up to 15 points on assassin damage, 15 points on damage with swords. Of course if you don't play with swords and with a different weapon, then put these 15 points on your according weapon type. Get up to 15 points on critical chance, 12 points on critical damage and another 8 points on damage while full health. The points in the warrior tab are actually all optional. You can get 12 points on warrior damage, you can get 12 points on fire damage, and you can also get 12 points on armor penetration. The most important one of them, however, will be armor penetration, because that also helps and increases your damage with Ares Madness. In the hunter tab you actually only have to go for a couple of points on crit chance and crit damage. I would put 12 points each. Of course you can also put a couple of points on hunter damage, because if you use the hunter damage conversion then they will become assassin damage as well. If you have way more than 400 ability points at your disposal, of course you can max out all the crit chance, crit damage, headshot damage, the bow stuff. You can even go for adrenaline on headshot kill. You can max out warrior damage, fire damage, armor penetration, even put a couple of points on damage dealt restored as health. Go for a damage dealt whenever time is slowed down, assassin damage, damage swords, max out the crit stuff, go for damage on full health, get a couple of points on the adrenaline stuff, go for health gained on adrenaline spent, and also damage on elites and bosses. What I would actually not recommend you to do is waste any of your points on the chance to deal 25% assassin damage on a melee hit, because that only works on every 20th hit. So the chance to get that is only 5%, and it is pretty much a waste of your points. You will have so much assassin damage already with Ares Madness that you really don't need it. I really hope you like this build. I also plan to update you again next week on the issue with Zargon's shop, so please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like, and see you next time.